Something feels wrong in the land of the stars and stripes. Can you imagine luxury hotels in Miami slashing their prices by 70% and still having no guests? Or bartending robots in New Orleans slowly replacing human workers just to keep a fragile tourism economy alive? In 2026, this is not the festival season. It is the year of modern ghost cities. The search term, "cancel flight to USA," is surging online, and the reason behind it will leave you stunned. In the 10 crisis cities I am about to show you, you will see a very different America. Not the America from movies, but a harsh and expensive reality. And after hearing all 10 names, you will understand why booking a flight to the US right now feels like a gamble. Let's begin. We start with the city that many still call the capital of the world, New York City. And the timing could not be more dramatic, because it is sitting very close to the 2026 World Cup final, the biggest football event on the planet. That should have been a gold mine, a historic boost that would send New York into a tourism explosion. But the reality is much more painful. The biggest football event in the world is, in a strange way, pushing middle-class tourists out of Manhattan's reach. Can you believe it? This summer, the average hotel room in Manhattan is expected to cost between $900 and $1,200 per night. To put that into perspective, one night in New York can cost as much as renting a decent apartment in Southeast Asia for 2 months. New York no longer sells dreams. It is selling financial stress. That price trap has created a ruthless economic filter. The World Cup attracts the ultra-rich, but it quietly pushes away ordinary families, the backbone of the service economy. So what happens? International tourists make up only 20% of arrivals, yet they account for 50% of total tourism spending. When that group turns back because it feels its wallet being drained, the loss is impossible to replace. Instead of staying near Times Square, thousands of visitors are being pushed into New Jersey, Connecticut, or even Pennsylvania just to sleep, then taking 2-hour subway rides simply to watch a match. New York is like an upscale party. The lights are still on. The music is still playing. But the dance floor is empty because the entry fee is outrageous. It is a city full of fans on the final day, yet it has almost no sustainable tourism energy for the rest of the year. What do you think? Would you spend a year's savings just to get 24 hours in New York? Leave your thoughts below. I would genuinely like to know your spending limit. Is an expensive city like New York simply the natural reality of a mega city, or is it slowly pushing its own visitors away? And if you think $1,000 a night is madness, then brace yourself for the West Coast. Because over there is a city building the future of artificial intelligence while struggling to keep real tourists from leaving. San Francisco in 2026 is a haven for billion-dollar startups, where the world's brightest minds are teaching machines how to think. But look down at the streets. While driverless cars glide smoothly through the city, international tourists are literally turning away. Have you seen the iconic cable cars climbing the legendary hills in eerie silence? They were once must-see symbols. Now they often run half-empty or carry only a few lonely passengers. The foggy, poetic hills that once looked like something from a film have now been replaced by the harsher reality of street sanitation issues and homeless encampments right in the financial district. Travel depends on image, and San Francisco's image online in 2026 is being attacked by phrases like outrageous room rates and unstable safety. To spend a single night near Union Square, the average hotel bill can equal the price of the newest iPhone. Yet when you step outside, you do not get luxury. You get closed signs and the fear of car break-ins. It is ironic that this is the place where robots become smarter every day, while the urban management system seems stuck in an outdated loop. The contrast between young tech billionaires and the worn-down streets creates a deep sense of alienation. Tourists come here looking for the future, but what they find is an unresolved urban crisis. What do you think about a city that can create world-changing technology but cannot keep tourists safe enough to stay? If you had $1,000, would you choose AI in San Francisco, or would you spend that money somewhere calmer? And if you think the gap between wealth and poverty, technology and decay, is already too extreme, then prepare yourself for the next destination. We are heading to a paradise that is being submerged, both literally and metaphorically. Welcome to number 8, Miami. Miami, where glamorous parties are colliding with the rough force of nature. On brochures, Miami still looks like the global beach dream: golden sunshine, blue water, and white yachts lined up in the bay. But there is one scene no brochure shows: seawater creeping onto luxurious sidewalks even when it has not rained at all. Miami is falling into what experts call sunny day flooding. Flooding under clear skies. While Latin music still pulses through the bars, European tourists, who care deeply about stability and the environment, are quietly removing Miami from their summer plans. They do not want to spend thousands of dollars walking through saltwater on the way to dinner. And while sea levels keep rising, service prices are also skyrocketing, climbing by as much as 50% in some major areas. A lunch in Miami can now cost as much as a week of groceries back home. And what do you get in return? Anxiety over tropical storms and sky-high travel insurance. Miami is like a golden race car racing across thin ice. Champagne still flows at luxury parties, but underneath is an infrastructure straining against nature. Smart travelers are beginning to realize that this luxury has an expiration date. When airfare to the US is already expensive, spending even more just to watch the ocean creep closer to the streets starts to look like a bad deal. Would you spend a huge amount of money on a city you know is getting worse environmentally, or would you choose a safer and more sustainable place? Leaving the flooded beaches behind, we now fly to the center of the world's film industry, where the dream is slowly becoming a horror story about cost and decline. That city is Los Angeles, where Hollywood glamour hides an almost unbelievable truth. To most people, Los Angeles has always been the capital of cinema, with glowing boulevards and lavish movie premieres. A movie star steps out of a limousine and dreams seem to begin overnight. But in 2026, everything appears to be shifting at a dizzying pace. When many people arrive here, they are met with quiet, closed shops, crowds jostling in the heat, and the sharp smell of car exhaust. The Walk of Fame, with more than 2,700 marble stars, was once an immortal symbol. Now the most common tourist complaint is, it doesn't look anything like the movies. Real-life Hollywood has become a mix of spontaneous street vendors and traffic so brutal that you can lose years of your life trying to move just a few miles. Many international tourists even joke that it would be better to wear virtual reality goggles at home and watch a studio tour there than spend thousands of dollars flying in person. The rise of online culture and streaming platforms has stripped away much of the city's uniqueness. Why are travelers canceling LA trips in droves? Because the cost of maintaining the illusion has become too high. A cup of coffee near the Hollywood sign can cost as much as a lavish meal, while all you really get is a check-in photo surrounded by crowds. LA is losing to its own ghost of the past. It can no longer bear the enormous expectations of a global audience. Would you spend thousands of dollars just to realize your idol is really only a lifeless stone on a dusty street? Or should Hollywood remain a beautiful memory on screen rather than a real destination? But if LA's noise and chaos disappoint you, the next destination brings a different kind of shock. A historic city wrapped in unsettling silence during the nation's biggest anniversary year. Let's go to Philadelphia, where America's 250th birthday is unfolding in a way nobody expected. We are standing in Philadelphia, known as the Cradle of America. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence was born here. The Liberty Bell rang here, helping lay the foundation of a superpower. And now, in 2026, the whole world is looking at Philly to celebrate the 250th birthday of the United States. This should have been one of the city's most glorious years, with millions of visitors pouring in. But the truth is brutally ironic. America is preparing for a massive birthday party, but it does not have enough staff to serve it. The post-pandemic labor shortage in the service sector has created a huge gap, leaving Philadelphia badly understaffed right before the big day. Imagine standing in line to admire the legendary Liberty Bell, but instead of enthusiastic guides, you are surrounded by, now hiring, signs everywhere. In luxury hotels, room rates have risen to unimaginable levels, enough to buy a high-capacity motorcycle. Yet in return, room service may happen only once every 3 days because there are simply not enough staff. Why are travelers canceling trips to such a historic event? Because the joy of travel has been replaced by waiting. When minimum wage rose but still did not keep up with Philadelphia's high cost of living, workers left the city. As a result, iconic restaurants began closing early, museums shortened their hours, and international tourists felt they were paying for inconvenience instead of historical value. Would you spend a huge budget on a historic celebration if you knew you would have to serve yourself from start to finish? Tell me your choice in the comments. Philadelphia may be proving that no matter how grand the party is, it cannot feel complete without people who are ready to host it. But if the silence there makes you uneasy, then brace yourself for something even more unsettling in a city where music is the breath of life. We are heading south to New Orleans, where jazz is slowly fading for reasons nobody expected. New Orleans is a place where even the sidewalks seem to know how to sing. But under the pressure of rising costs and staffing shortages, a silent transformation is taking place. Instead of watching expert bartenders work their magic, tourists now stand in line in front of an emotionless robotic arm. Visiting New Orleans today is like buying a ticket to a live concert, only to arrive and find the organizers playing a 10-year-old YouTube video. The human connection that once defined this city is being digitized away. For years, tourists came here looking for the soul of jazz, not to witness automation with sky-high service fees. When a city famous for its identity starts replacing people with software to save money, it has unknowingly begun losing the very reason tourists return. Is New Orleans proving a painful truth? A city can survive without money, but it cannot survive without identity. But if the disappearance of culture leaves you nostalgic, the next stop shows a more direct economic struggle. Let's go to Seattle, where the Emerald City is slowly losing its charm because of an overly generous neighbor. Seattle, home to giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Starbucks, is a place where many technological ideas have changed the world. But in recent years, it seems to have cornered itself by becoming too expensive to enjoy. Did you know that travel costs in Seattle are currently 25% to 30% higher than in neighboring Vancouver, Canada? A simple example. The same cup of coffee, the same view of the deep blue bay, but in Seattle you pay an amount equivalent to a snack across the border. A wave of smart travelers is creating a new pattern. They fly to Vancouver, enjoy cheaper hotels in Canada, and then rent a car to cross into the US just to spend a few hours in Seattle. Seattle is like a luxury designer item sitting beside a nearly identical version that costs far less. When tourists realize they can see the same mountain ranges and coastline while saving enough for a plane ticket, their loyalty to Seattle disappears quickly. Seattle has built world-changing technology empires, but it has failed to manage simple travel costs. Expensive hotels and punishing service taxes have turned the city into an outdoor museum reserved for people with unlimited budgets. If it were you, would you stay in downtown Seattle and pay the premium, or would you drive in from Canada and save 30%? Share your plan. But if Seattle is merely losing customers to a nearby rival, the next city is losing an entire generation of potential customers. Welcome to Las Vegas, where the neon lights are facing a historic identity crisis. What happens to the gambling capital of the world when Gen Z says no to the cards? In 2026, the neon still shines, but the sound of chips is being replaced by a haunting silence at the blackjack tables. Las Vegas was built on faith and chance. But now it cannot depend on Generation Z. Unlike previous generations, today's young people consider sitting for hours at a slot machine to be outdated. They would rather buy a ticket to a sold-out concert, an intense esports tournament, or a top-tier virtual reality experience than watch numbers spin endlessly. You will be shocked when you step into the iconic casinos and see slot machines being replaced by pickleball courts and co-working spaces. Going to Las Vegas now feels like entering a famous steakhouse and finding only organic salads on the menu. Casino owners are frantically experimenting with everything from online gaming arenas to art districts just to attract young people who see gambling as a poor investment. Las Vegas is slipping into an identity crisis. When casino revenue, the city's lifeblood, declines, hotel and dining prices are raised to cover the loss, giving international tourists even more reason to cancel their trips. The city built on dreams of a better life is now facing reality. Luck cannot save you if your brand no longer matches the times. But if you think only expensive cities lose visitors, the next name proves that even when something is free, tourists can still walk away. Let's go to Washington, D.C., where the great museums are facing an invisible barrier. The museums are free, but lunch is more expensive than admission would be anywhere else. That is the most common complaint from tourists the moment they arrive in Washington, D.C. in 2026. This powerful capital openly displays historical value, but hides a financial trap right on the dinner table. The world-famous Smithsonian museums remain free, with not a single penny charged. You can admire dinosaur skeletons or space shuttles without spending a cent. But the moment you leave the museum and step into a sandwich shop near the National Mall, reality hits your wallet hard. In Washington, D.C., menu prices are only the beginning. Once taxes, service fees, and tips are added, your bill can rise by 30% more than expected. A simple sandwich and a soft drink can cost as much as a full day of lavish meals in many other countries. International tourists are shocked by hidden inflation, where small charges stack into a huge burden. Historical monuments may be priceless, but the cost of simply surviving a day in the capital is becoming too high for what many feel the experience is worth. People are starting to cancel trips not because the museums lost their magic, but because they do not want to pay unreasonable prices just to eat lunch. But if the numbers in the capital make your head spin, the final city on this list may break your heart for an entirely different reason. Let's go to the city with one of the most beautiful skylines in America, where architectural beauty is struggling against invisible fear. In the age of social media, a short clip can push away thousands of tourists more effectively than any law. That is exactly what is happening in Chicago in 2026. Chicago has one of the most stunning skylines in the world, with skyscrapers that are true architectural masterpieces and a food scene capable of satisfying even the most demanding diners. But now it is facing a new kind of virus, a digital reputation crisis. While real-world numbers may be improving, TikTok and YouTube algorithms reward sensational headlines about safety and instability. Chicago is trapped in a loop of bias. An international traveler searching for Chicago does not immediately see the magnificent beauty of the Willis Tower. Instead, they often see hidden camera footage of chaos on the L train lines running through the city. Fear spreads far faster than truth. To picture Chicago's problem more clearly, think of tourism promotion trying to repaint a house covered by thick black smoke from rumors. The red zones amplified by social media have built a strong psychological barrier, making tourists choose a more ordinary destination instead of stepping into a city they believe is dangerous based on only a few short clips. In 2026, tourism no longer runs on guidebooks. It runs on what people think they see on their phone screens. When negative images dominate, flights are cancelled, not because the city lacks beauty, but because trust has been damaged. Chicago is teaching a powerful lesson. In the digital age, a city can be perfectly safe in reality, but if it loses the media battle, it can still be empty. And what about you? Do you believe what you see on social media about a travel destination? Is a 15-second clip enough for you to cancel a trip you have dreamed about for a long time? Leave your opinion, because this is one of the most debated questions right now. Our list of 10 crisis cities is complete, and it paints a bleak picture of America's travel landscape in 2026. But is this the end, or only a pause for restructuring? Looking back at the 10 cities on today's list, one thing is very clear. America is not lacking in attractive destinations. From vibrant New York to sunny Miami to Chicago with its spectacular skyline, these cities remain global icons. But the tourism industry is entering a different era. Travelers now think more about cost, real experience, social media image, and whether the trip feels worth it. Sometimes a single factor, price, online perception, or a generational shift, is enough to make millions of people change destinations. And that leaves an important question for all of us. Which city on this list do you think will recover the strongest? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your perspective. If you like this kind of analysis, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you do not miss the next one. This video is created to analyze and discuss travel trends based on public data, industry reports, and media observations. It is not meant to attack any organization or any specific city. The cities mentioned are still important and attractive destinations in the United States. The goal here is to spark discussion about how the tourism industry is changing in this new era. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next one.